Daniel Van Slyke, how are you?
Doing well. How you doing, Scott?
I'm doing very well. I'm so glad that we were introduced because when Louisa introduced us, I was thinking you must be a pretty cool guy because Louisa says you are. And so then we had lunch right down the street from where my aunt lives, and I went and it was one of the things that struck me about you. Well, for one, look at how you dress. Come on, you really cleaned up nice. But it was how giddy you got over land trusts and anonymity and what all these things. I was going like, and so I'm thinking like, okay, this is a good guy to know. And so I know that you're an estate planning attorney. I know one of your big things is protecting people's anonymity and their privacy and all this. But tell us more about you, what gets you excited, what you really like to focus on in your business, that kind of.
Yes, asset protection is something I love focusing on, and that gets me excited. And one of the layers of it is anonymity. It's not letting other people find your assets really easily
Mm-hmm.
by keeping them quiet, so that you're less of a lawsuit target.
Right.
And it actually is very natural when you're doing estate planning. It's very natural to throw in asset protection because there are a
Mm-hmm.
lot of things you do to protect heirs.
Right.
But you could also do some things to protect, your actual client who's right in front
Mm-hmm.
of you. And there are a lot of tools that, frankly, are underutilized and
Mm-hmm.
really wonderful to protect assets.
Yeah, well, why don't you tell us? Because I was talking about a buddy of mine, an actor friend who was thinking about this because when you started talking about it, I thought, hey, I called him and said, are you protected? Are you not? And he ended up bringing up a land trust. So I have a working knowledge of it, but I don't have a Daniel Van Slyke knowledge of it. So tell us about a land trust. And if you have an example of maybe how you used it to protect someone, that would be
Uh,
great.
I do. Yeah. In fact, land trusts are a great little tool. Some attorneys will tell you that there's no such thing as a land trust, and I guess technically maybe not. It's like a revocable living trust that holds nothing except your property and some
Hmm.
parcel of real property that you
Right.
purchased. And for whatever reason, you did not want to appear on title. And I'll give you an example. I'm licensed in Texas as well as California.
Hmm.
And I have a client who's basically I'm kind of working with the client's California based agent. The
Hmm.
client's an international celebrity.
Uh-huh.
And this client purchased a rather large property in Texas
Hmm.
and did not want to appear on the record. A lot of fans out there.
Hmm.
So if you don't want fans showing up on your lawn, this is a good way to do it. Yeah,
Right.
what you do is I arranged it so the way that he purchased this property, he will never appear in the real property records. So
Hmm.
it's going to be very difficult for anybody to find out that he owns this property. And how did
Hmm.
I do that? That was with a land trust.
Hmm.
They're very handy tools. Celebrities really like them. I was approached by another celebrity. She was in a television series where all of a sudden people were showing interest to her, and she had people showing up on her front lawn, and she
Oh,
didn't
that's
like that.
awful.
It's like, okay, well, let's get you off title at least so that you don't appear on current searches. There again, land trust was the trick. Very
Is there
simple.
a way to, let's say someone didn't do it right, so that she buys it, she didn't know that she needed to protect that with herself, but now she's becoming the celebrity of note. So is there a way that, let's say you get in there, you put it into the land trust, and then is there still a way for them to look back and find old records or something?
Somebody could, yeah. The thing is that they're not going to appear in a search of current title. So
Hmm.
it varies it a little. But if you've already purchased the property in your name, it's it's too late to entirely eliminate you from the title history. You're going to be there.
Wonder, what if you, I wonder what if you did some type of a quit claim to someone, or you sold it to them and then bought it back? There's got to be. I mean, if you're worth that much money and you're protecting so much, it might be worth getting a little creative that way.
Yeah. The problem when you get creative that way is that you wind up running into tax problems.
Mm.
Um, that,
Okay.
yeah, and that's a bit of a because when you sell a property, somebody's realizing a gain, somebody's got to report this to the IRS.
Right.
Yeah, and quit claims are, I mean, if you're a savvy person searching title histories, you pretty much know that a quit claim, almost always you're just giving it to yourself in the form of a note, right? Because nobody else would accept a quit claim indeed.
Hmm.
I do have, you talk about real estate hell. One of the nightmares I see a lot of times is people who have messed with their own title to their real
Hmm.
property. And oh my goodness, this happens so often. I wound up, for example, with a client who he's an elderly client, and one of his daughters had this brilliant idea of transferring half of his property to herself and her
Mm-hmm.
husband. So mom and dad were still on the title. Now
Mm-hmm.
dad's deceased. Now mom, dad, sister, husband of sister. And I mean, in doing that, basically, it's a California property. So she triggered reassessment.
Oh
Uh,
no.
yeah, right. He'd been in that house.
So the house they bought for $40,000 and it's worth, 2,500,000 now.
Yeah, that's right. So that, I mean, that's a huge mistake, is to try to transfer title on your own. Not only did she trigger reassessment, but also when dad passes, she's not going to get a step up in gain on that part of the property, right?
Oh my gosh, that's a huge miss.
Yeah, it's a property tax faux pas or disaster, really, and it's
Mm-hmm.
also a capital gains tax disaster.
Mm-hmm.
And wow, I see this kind of thing so often. It's and another thing that people do is they'll come to me while they have LLCs,
Mm-hmm.
and they elected S corp taxation because some CPA told them to,
Mm-hmm.
and they own an investment property in the S corp,
Mm-hmm.
and then they're like, oh, I'm going to transfer it out to myself because I want to do something else with it.
Mm-hmm.
Boom, you realize a capital gain, that's a taxable transfer, even though you're just transferring it to yourself.
Wow.
Yeah, so S corps are another kind of they're a real estate hell type of entity. If you want to hold it, LLCs are great for holding real property, but don't make an S corp election.
Right.
What do you do?
I'm pretty sure you told me that's what you said at lunch too.
Yeah.
Whatever you do, don't do that.
Yes, it really is a good idea to consult an attorney, especially, I do estate planning and I do asset protection, and I'm always kind of looking steps down the road.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're going to purchase a property, before you sign those title documents, you ought to talk to somebody that has your long-term benefit in mind.
Right.
Because it's like here's another one in California. If you purchase, reassessments, this Proposition 19, I'm sure your audience
Mm-hmm.
knows about Proposition 19, right?
Well, they're going to know after this.
So it was passed a few years back, but what it means now is that when you pass your properties, in, let's just say it's an investment property, it's not your home, you die, you give it to your children, it gets reassessed.
Mm-hmm.
So for property tax purposes, if you paid $200,000 for that 20 years ago, which a lot of clients did, right? And then
Mm-hmm.
now you die and it's worth $1 million.
Mm-hmm.
You're talking about a huge jump in your property tax. And if you buy the property originally in an LLC, there's a way to avoid that.
Oh.
But if you buy the investment property first and then you transfer it into an LLC, it's too late. So,
boy, you're a good guy to know. If you want to save hundreds of thousands of dollars, call Dan.
Oh yeah, I have a passion for that, and I also I'm one of those attorneys that I'm not technically a tax attorney, but I love taxes,
Mm-hmm.
and I actually love talking to people who do taxes.
Uh-huh.
So CPAs, actual tax attorneys, enrolled agents. I pick their brains all the time and just love talking to them about what's going on, because there's so many easy mistakes to make, especially in real property,
Mm-hmm.
and they all have both tax implications and they have asset protection implications.
All right, hold on one second.
Yep.
What I would do is, as I'm talking, I write down titles, and I put down "protect your ass."
Yes. That'll work.
Yes,
I've thought of that, but it's not quite my style, so I wouldn't do it personally. But you feel free.
Okay. Yeah, I think yes. You're probably. I don't know. I think you're a little more polished than me. I'll just say that.
A little more buttoned up, straight laced, if you say.
Yeah, but that's good. As long as you're being your best you, I like you. That's honestly how I feel about it.
I'm one of the only. You can recognize me too, because I'm one of the only attorneys in Pasadena who wears a tie. You can tell I'm not from around here.
Right. He ain't from these parts.
That's right.
So do you have another story you want to share?
Yeah, let me, I'll tell you another, this is back, when I started off as an attorney, I did a ton of litigation. And my litigation pretty much all involved a couple things. Somebody who was dead and a piece of real property.
Mm-hmm.
So I was known as the dead person guy.
Mm-hmm.
And I did nothing, but this is all that I did. And I'll tell you one of the worst things I saw since the title of this show is Real Estate Hell, this was like almost something out of a horror movie.
Mm-hmm.
So son, who has a drug issue, stabs dad to death in the house with a knife multiple times, and then gets in his pickup truck with the knife covered in blood and drives off and winds up in jail, of course. Okay, so dad has a will. He doesn't have a trust. He has a will. And this son is an executor on the will. How do you like that? Yeah, it's getting better. And now on top of that, somebody came along and decided they would try to get that house ready for sale. There was a lien on that house from an outfit called Crime Scene Clean.
Crime Scene Clean.
Yes.
They cleaned up the crime after the crime? Like Harvey Keitel?
Cleaned up the blood, and it was,
wow.
You actually, that's like a mechanic's lien on a house. Fascinating. So when the house is sold, the lien has to be paid off. And this guy from jail refused to step down as executor of the will. So we had to go to court and get the court to say, no, he's not serving as executor.
Right. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I mean, how do you avoid that? You might want to know your children a little better, I suppose. But there's actually a wonderful little provision that I put in all my estate planning documents, whether it be an estate, usually it's a trust-based plan. And it's a Slayer rule. So
a Slayer rule?
Slayer rule, yeah. The Slayer rule is that if somebody kills you, they can't inherit from you. Now,
why am I laughing?
Yeah, you want to be explicit about that. So why do you do that? Because obviously you don't want to be worth more dead than alive, right? Like, It's a Wonderful Life. That's the ultimate cruel accusation. But what the Slayer rule does, a lot of states have actual statutes that say you can't inherit if you murder somebody. But here's the problem. You have to be convicted of murder under a lot of the statutes. In other words, it's very difficult to convict somebody of murder, right? I mean, think of Johnson, right? He was not convicted of murder in a criminal court. He was found guilty of wrongful death in a civil court because the standard of proof is lower. So with a Slayer rule in your estate plan, even if it seems rather likely that you murdered somebody, you can't inherit from that person.
Really?
Yeah.
That seems weird, because what if someone actually didn't do it and all of a sudden he's out or she's out?
Yeah, I don't know if I haven't seen that any instance where that rule's been invoked where I think it was unfair. Let's just say that.
Boy, I'm learning a lot about you.
There are questionable instances, but yeah, the Slayer rule is great. And when I put it in there, sometimes clients notice it and they want to talk about it. They've never asked me to take it out.
Very good. It would seem weird. Can you imagine if your kids look through this and go, what is this? Oh, yeah. I'm just saying, kids, I've got 2 properties and I've got a lot of assets. You don't want to kill this guy.
That's right. Then you don't get anything. And then there's an option. What about their children? You can cut off the children of the Slayer. Anyway, it all goes into the trust.
The Children of the Slayer. It sounds like a new movie. Children of the Slayer.
Actually, that's a great title for a podcast or something like that. I like that.
Yeah. Well, as long as you give me the credit, you can use it.
I can mention you. I have a YouTube site too. It's iPlan Law is the YouTube site.
Right.
So I don't do interviews. They're just informational videos.
They're great, by the way. You are so concise. You're so clear. I love it.
Thank you. That's the goal.
Yeah. So where do people go? Is it just under your name? It's on YouTube, you said?
You can find it if you look up my name, but the YouTube address is iPlan Law.
Okay.
Just like you have written there after my name.
Nice. Perfect. All right. So now that you've told us about the Slayer Law, the horror movie, and protecting your ass, don't mess with title. This is so much fun. Tell us about a charity or cause that's close to your heart that you want to shine some light on.
Well, this is Christmas time, right? So a lot of people want to give around the holidays, Christmas, Hanukkah, everything. So there are a charity that's near and dear to my heart. I mean, I belong to the Knights of Columbus. They're a great organization. If you really want to support local causes, they're big into things like veterans causes, local schools. A lot of private schools need your help. I mean, if you're looking to really help out in your local community, small private schools are struggling and they're really good for students. So
I agree.
things like that.
Awesome. Well, I can tell you that the choice of school for us, I mean, private school can be a beast sometimes, because it's a lot of money. But I look at it and I'm going, whenever something came up, we had a voice. And that's one of the things I really liked about it with our boys, with our daughter. If there was a real issue, the first thing we say is this something that you need an adult to step in on? Or can you handle it yourself? Trying to give them the opportunity to handle it themselves. But every now and then something comes up, and I'm going, something, you shouldn't be handling this anymore. I want your permission for me to step in. I'm going to no matter what. And then all of a sudden we have a voice there, and he feels, or she they feel protected, and they feel like, oh gosh, I have a voice. And I'm being heard when something is going on that shouldn't be going on. So that's why we keep paying the big bill.
And I mean, it's really worth it. I used to be in education. Now I was in higher education, so I'm a doctor. I have a PhD and a JD. So you can call me Doctor if you like.
Yes, Dr. D.
It's one of the great things about private schools is just people have taken steps to put their children there, so the parents tend to be more involved.
Yeah.
When you have involved parents, that means somebody's monitoring the kids both in school and at home, and they're also a lot of times being taught ethics, right? Not just subjects like science and math, which are great, but also they're being taught how to behave, which seems to be people are losing that art.
It is. Yeah, I see that. And sometimes, like my daughter will say something like, gosh, Dad, you're so protective. And I go, oh, sweetie, I'm so glad you recognize that. Give me a hug. But that you acknowledge how much I care about you and watch out for you. And she goes, I know what you're doing, Dad. So it's like there's no way around it. I'm going to be protective, and I'm going to watch out for you. And when you're really ready to enter the world, I want you to know that we had your back and we're always here, but now you're going to be prepared. But
right.
Yes.
That's the way to do it. That's the way to do it. And I think that's just what children need.
Really. I do too.
The more they act like they don't need it, probably the more they need it.
There you go. Well, gosh, this was quick and easy, wasn't it? We got this done in like 20 minutes. Not even 20 minutes. I love this.
Oh, we're done already? Okay.
We're done. Yes, I got all I need from you, Dan. We'll do that. You have such good stories. I'm gonna put you down to revisit, to come back, and then think of anything you want to talk about along the way, and then we'll do this again.
Sounds good. Yeah. I was just getting warmed up. I was ready to go for another hour.
Well, if you have a couple more if you have something really exciting to share, we don't have to.
That's all right. I also probably, since I have the opportunity, should get back to all that work. I'm hoping to finish before I go off to take a couple days off for.
Nice.
For Christmas.
Nice. Well, we just got. To me, I like to keep it short and sweet and interesting, and that's everything you did. Was, I mean, gosh, I got more than I usually get if I'm on for twice as long. So this is great.
Excellent. Yeah. I tried to. I actually had took little notes of some of the stories I wanted to go through. And
okay, so we're gonna get it figured again in another 6 months or so. We'll jump on those.
Perfect.